Week 2, y'all. So I did it. I watched Final Destination 2. The sheer disappointment that I had in rewatching that cannot be overstated. Is Final Destination 2 better than Final Destination 1? I mean, yeah, I guess. But it's kind of like asking if I stepped in dog poop or dog piss, which was better. You know? They both suck. They're both awful. One's just slightly less awful than the other. Here's the thing, y'all. I really did realize this. I recognized it this time, this go around. The only thing people remember from that movie is max 10 seconds. It's the thing with the log and the car. That it. 10 seconds. In what, like an hour and a half movie? My whole anticipation was that there wasn't going to be the supernatural element, that it was just kind of a bunch of freak accidents that happened, which some of them you could claim that was true, but honestly, that really wasn't the case, especially on the first one. So, we have some rando. We'll call her Rando. Randy. We'll call her Randy. Because I didn't bother to learn her name again. Whoever the lead girl is, we don't know her from Jack. And she gets in the car and, oh no, oil is leaking underneath. Oh no, she needs to get that checked. And so she's with a couple of people that, again, we don't know, but they're friends. And like, her father says, you need to get that checked. And she's like, okay, whatever. And she goes on the road. And then, like, all hell breaks loose. And it's like the worst traffic accident that you can possibly imagine. And we see everything in this accident. But again, like I said before, only thing people remember is that 10-second moment with the log. That's it. I even remember how the premonition ended. Like, and I remembered how the premonition ended in the first one. That bad. That's really bad. To be fair to 2, though, there are a few moments that I think are more memorable. There's a death with a sheet of glass crushing a boy. That was memorable, even though I still thought it was stupid. Oh man, it's... Okay, y'all, so she has the premonition, right? Randy, that's what we're calling her. Randy has the premonition, and she ends up saving everyone except her friends, which I should not have laughed when her friends still died and she didn't. But I did. I thought it was really fun. Are these meant to be comedies? Because they have that feel to them. At least 2. 2 is definitely better made than the first one. And 2 has a sense that it's kind of ludicrous. But y'all, 2 is dumber than the first one too. Okay, so she has the premonition. She is in the police station, and again, we have another scene that's very reminiscent of the first film, because this almost feels like a carbon copy of the first film, which most sequels are. To be fair to this movie, most sequels are copy paste. We're just going to rename characters and have some different situations. The biggest thing that's different is the Avenue of Death, which is pretty much true for most horror sequels. What this one doesn't do, and it's because Death is not really a villain or an engaging one at that, we don't really explore that a little bit more. And the little bit that's kind of done is so convoluted and stupid, and it kind of breaks its own rules, it seems like, in the course of the film. So, anyway, she's at the police station. Father shows up. And he's consoling her, and he's like, oh my goodness, I'm so glad you're alive. I'm so happy you in my life. And again, just like Alex in number one, the parent freaking disappears after that. He may have been in like max one more scene out of that, but for the majority of the rest of the movie, he disappears. So obviously, we have another Father of the Year award to hand out. This series, yo, it drives me up the wall. This series drives me crazy. Oh my goodness. I mean, the one thing that I will give this is there was a mother son pairing that was in the collection of people who escaped death, and I kind of liked them, which is more than I could say about anybody in the first film. Point to number two. The other thing that is kind of an interesting variation of a theme is that in the first one, it's pretty much all teenagers and that one random teacher who dies so quickly she's like irrelevant, to be honest. We have a huge kind of flowing age range of people and professions. It's not all students. So there's more opportunities to explore. Do we learn anything about any of these characters? No. No, we don't. Because we don't care. And obviously, the storytellers don't care neither. I can't even imagine what it must have been like getting that script. I feel like if I was acting in that movie, I would just memorize the lines and kind of like hit my marks, and that would be it. I wouldn't try and do any sort of like character study, because there's no study to care. There's no character to study. They are all worthless. They're pointless. They're just fodder to die. This is a series that's very much death count series. Your death tally go up and up and up and up, and we see some spectacular way that they die. I mean, again, very reminiscent of Friday the 13th, except Friday the 13th is frickin' fun. And this one is agonizing torture. So, I had to Google it. I think the ending of one was like maybe 3 months, maybe 6 months after the initial kaboom of the plane. And, this one lands like, honestly, it's 1 year later after the event that happened. And then there's this big event that happens again. Honestly, I thought this was a huge mistake. This movie did not come out in 2001. There was, in fact, a 3-year gap in between 1 and 2. I think they should have taken advantage of that. I think the idea of it being 3 years, especially if you line up exactly when it's being released, would make it play better. The fact that it's 1 year later, I think is absolutely ludicrous, especially when we find Ali Larter again in the movie. Ali Larter's character name, I learned it this time. Claire. Not Claire. Clear. You know, like Clear Eyes. It's one of the dumbest names I've, I've ever heard. I absolutely hate it. So when we find her, keep in mind, this is only 1 year later. We find her and she is in this fully padded cell in a psych ward. And but she sounds so sane when she's talking. Nothing about her comes across like she's having a mental breakdown. So part of that, I think, is just a writing issue. Part of that might have been just the way that Ali Larter chose to play it. But there was nothing about it that made me buy, oh yeah, they would agree to put her in a fully padded cell. Especially with such little time after the events where everything seemed normal at the end of number 1. So I didn't buy that. And then we find out what happened to my main man, Alex, who I know I've talked crap about him like the entirety of the first one. My main man, Alex, he not freaking there. Like, what happened to him? If you blink, you'll miss it. But, I mean, it's stated by Ali that he died. Which, by clear, shall we say. Oh, man. So, how did death eventually get Alex? You know? Well, there's a brief headline that you can read, and it says that a random brick dislodged and hit him and killed him. And Ali's character, Clear, says, I let him go like after 2 months and that happened. Oh, which means the time frame is even shorter to get her to that point. But, you're telling me Alex was so smart and so observant that he was able to beat death multiple times and a freaking just one brick falls, hits him on the head, and he dies? Did death rent Home Alone 2 and decided to hire Kevin McAllister to kill Alex? There's this whole thing. It's not even worth explaining, y'all. There's this whole thing where it's like, oh, if this, like, character who was supposed to die in the big car crash actually has her baby, that will cheat death and death's plan, and everything will be erased. Everything. And you're like, okay. But then it happens and people keep dying. And you're like, okay, weren't we building up to this a lot? And I mean, the police officer, like, the lead girl, we're calling her Randy, she just ends up, like, living at the police officer's place, and so do all of these other rando people. And people are like, I'm not going to let death kill me. And you're like, okay, well, like an hour before you die? Okay, cool. All right, bring it. 2 is really dumb, y'all. It's one of the dumbest movies I've ever seen. It's nowhere near as infuriating as the first one, and in a way, it's kind of more fun, but your expectations are so freaking low because the first one is such hot trash. This one's just really stupid, and it's a lot dumber than its predecessor, and the predecessor was stupid enough to begin with. The other thing that I can't stand is the very ending. The ending is so mean-spirited in this one. One character, he gets pulled away from a truck that almost hits him, and the character is like, "You need to be careful. You could have died." And so they hear, "Oh, he cheated death." And then what happens to this character? They're at kind of like this outside picnic. The freaking like barbecue explodes. And not only does he die, but his severed arm lands in front of his mother and she screams. And that's how the movie ends. The problem with this is that we were led to believe that part of the reason death went after all of these people is because they were kind of huge events where multiple people died. This is one random circumstance that to me doesn't really line up with the whole nature of the piece and what we know about death. Final Destination 2 sucks. I hate to say it. Have y'all watched it recently? Because I feel like the only thing people remember are just those 10 seconds with the log. Anyway, don't do what I'm doing. I'm telling you, do not waste your time watching this trash series. Because it is mind-numbing sitting through. Anyway, live your life while you can before death comes to get you all.